to my channel. It's Is That Her? And today our setup is going to be outside. And today what we're going to be doing is a full acrylic nail set for practice. I'm kind of a beginner, intermediate learner, but I have a passion to do nails. I always want to do my nails. I have just a few uploads before on my shorts of me actually doing polish, but we're going to be working with acrylic and gel polish this time. So as you can see, I have a practice hand that I'm going to be using. I'm not going to be using my hands or anybody else's. This is strictly practice. This is also a good beginner friendly video because I'm just a learner myself. So in this nail video, what I'm mainly going to be practicing and tackling is my prep technique to try and make sure the nails stick and last long as if I were to basically be working on a real client, which again, I never had real clients. I'm not an actual nail tech. This is beginner friendly. I do want to eventually get to that stage and learn to eventually do other people's nails, but until then, we are starting from the bottom and practice to do it myself. So I'm filing these the fake nails on the practice hand right now before I actually get into filing. Now, the tools that you will see me use in this video are from a lot of beginner kits that I've ordered either off Amazon or TikTok. Um, some essentials were given to me for free, which I'm really, really grateful for to help me in my nail journey. So, just a warning, you will see my camera, it will shift a little bit to different angles. That's either because I kept bumping my camera or I just tried to shift or zoom in to get a better angle. It was a lot of shifting. So, as a beginner, you may not be able to afford fancy top quality drills and bits. So that's why it's good to have alternative and backup plans. So I'm using a hefty, good nail filer. It's very rough, so it's gonna definitely give me that feel as if I were using a sanding bit on a drill. So I'm just gonna go through each finger, starting with the pinky, and just filing the natural nail to remove the shine as if I were working on an actual nail. So now that I finished with the nail bed prep, I'm gonna go in with my container of nail tips that I ordered off Amazon. And I'm just gonna find a nail tip that fits each nail. Now you won't see me find a nail tip that fits sidewall to sidewall. The edges will be hanging a bit. I have seen other people, like other nail techs, they clip the edges, they clip like the sides to make it fit. I won't do that. I just feel the need to just find the nail tip that fits the nail shape, but eventually I'll just file the side so it fits to that shape. It's no biggie really. Now with this fingernail, I actually tried to get it to stick, but it just wouldn't. That so I just moved the nail and tried to file it once more and re-prep the nail a little bit. Since the filing wasn't really removing the shine from the glue, I decided to use the drill to see if that would help as well. So after drilling and refiling, I reapplied some nail glue and went in with a whole new tip. So I did apply some extra adhesive like glue spray to see if that would help, and then moved on to actually trying to blend where the nail tip meets the actual nail bed and try and file it down just a little bit. And now I went in with filing the sides that were hanging out to blend in with the nail. So the process for the thumb was just repeated with the rest of the fingers. So the next thing I did was drill over the nail and up to the nail tip part. Now I just realized I kind of went out of order, and now I'm deciding to clip the nails to a shorter length, which I should have did from the beginning after I first applied the nail tip before I even started filing or drilling anything. And now we've come to approach the exciting part, which is the acrylic. I cannot wait to get into this part. So I'm using a color pink. It could be from Mia's Secret. I'm not sure, again, because this is one of the products that was given to me for free, but it could be Mia's Secret. So the monomer I'm going to be using is the NT Noma Plus, and I ordered it off TikTok in the 8 ounce. And I'm just going to be pouring that and setting up and getting my brushes that I'm going to be using and trying to clean up the nail tips a little bit before I actually move on to the next part. Now, if you're just learning how to do your nails, don't be like me. I still have to work on trying to clean up from one section to before I move on to the next step in my nails. Pushing stuff aside is not cleaning up your nail area. So let me tell you right now, this process was fun and exciting, but at the same time, it was very difficult because my setup is outside. Unfortunately, I'm a beginner. My setup, unfortunately, cannot be indoors due to, personal reasons, but I'm dealing with the weather. Now, when I started this set, it was around, I would say, 10 a.m. So I had a good head start. It was only like 70 something degrees, but eventually, before it actually started getting hotter in the 80s, but still, I'm still working with acrylic that will dry faster in the heat. Now, for the most part, I did have some good beads that were moist and easy to apply, but again, I'm still learning how to pick up a good bead. I'm really just trying to find a good tactic, and I'm still learning. So if I can master that, I feel like I can overcome working in any temperature if it's really, really cold and dealing with extremely runny acrylic, or if it's really hot, dealing with acrylic that dries fast. So I would say one of my struggles was trying to pick up a large bead. I don't know if it was my acrylic brush not being big enough or the 3 bead method wasn't working, but I was just trying to pick up really big beads so I wouldn't have to worry about this, which is getting 3 medium beads, piling them up on each other, which, as you can see, is a problem because when I turn the nail to the side, there are dips instead of just flat straight. And then I also did eventually end up messing up my acrylic brush because I don't know, the way I was trying to pick up the beads, some of the acrylic just kept getting stuck in the bristles of the brush and was clumping up a little bit. And me just trying to keep dipping it back in the monomer and brushing it on my paper towel wasn't getting it out enough. And also, I don't know if that was a problem or because the acrylic was just drying fast in the brush, but whenever I would pick up a bead, some parts of the bead would still kind of be wet and powdery, and it wouldn't soak up the monomer for easy application. So after I finished the thumbnail, basically I just repeated the process and worked on my application on all of the fingers. So I don't know if you could tell the struggle, but as soon as I laid the meat down, it started breaking apart in pieces and it looked like it was already drying. So I had to keep going in with monomer, practically wetting the whole nail, brushing it very harshly to try and get it to move. It was just, it was a lot. And then also, since my beads weren't perfect and even, I made sure that I had to go in where the gaps were sinking in a little bit or uneven. I had to just go in with just a little bit more acrylic, try and go over the top and even it out. And then I don't even know what it means when I'm trying to apply it and the acrylic just refuses to get off the brush. It's like still sticking to the brush, which is also another reason why some of the acrylic pieces kept getting stuck and dry in the brush. And I would just have to keep brushing it against the paper towel and keep dipping it in monomer to try and get it off. Now, I can definitely say some beads just were terrible. Some beads came out so perfect. It was a mixture of good and bad. My main goal was no matter how bad the bead was, as soon as I laid it down on the nail bed, was just to not let it dry that way, was to try and just smooth it out as best I can. So when it came to actually buffing the nail, I wouldn't have to do that much work. If you didn't notice, the thumbnail was an issue throughout this process. It kept coming out of the practice hand and I just kept putting it back. And it was definitely a problem when trying to file and drill. So this is the prime example of what I said. My beads would still be too sandy. Like the monomer wouldn't even be soaked up. That was the most terrible bead. And that is one of the main reasons why the acrylic was getting in the brush and drying and stuck in the brush. Hence, I got so frustrated when it kept getting clumped in the bead and I was trying my best to get it out with the napkin, but it wouldn't go anywhere. It was stuck. But that's okay because the next bead was so beautiful. It was so moist, so smooth. I mean, I can definitely say that's the whole part of the learning process, making mistakes, getting messy. I don't like it, but it has to happen for me to show improvements. And see another smooth, easy beat for application. And I'm surprised that I was able to even get a beat like that in the weather. Well, that just proves it's not just the weather that can play a positive or negative role, or the temperature in the room setting that you're working in that can affect your application. It's really just your technique and your control and how you pick up the beat. Like through my experience of watching so many different YouTube videos and watch so many different on lives and on YouTube. For instance, I've seen a nail tech pick up a runny bead. Like I don't know if it's temperature in the room, but the bead was so messy and so runny. And I was actually a little scared watching how she was able to control the bead and keep it on the nail and set it. But in the end, it set perfectly. Now we're finally on the pinky finger. Now, out of all the nails, I feel like the ring finger, in my opinion, came out better than any other nail. Literally was the smoothest nail. The other ones looked a bit bumpy, but you know. Moving on to the filing part, this part was a bit satisfying, getting the bumps out. The only part I would say that was kind of hard was trying to keep the nail still because I am on a thumbnail. And I would say this is the only nail that kept popping out, but then all of a sudden, the index finger or either the middle finger wanted to start popping out too. I don't know if I was just handling the practice hand too roughly, but it was popping out. But I can definitely say the drilling, the filing, and the buffing definitely did me a bit more justice than I thought. Though it was a few humps and a few bumps left in the nail, I couldn't hardly notice it as I did before because the buffing and the filing really took most of it out. But that was the least of my worry. Now, my main worry was actually getting to the design. Up after the buffing, I went in with some 50% isopropyl alcohol using just some simple nail pads and just apply a light layer pretty much and rubbed it a little bit before I actually get into the base. For the original design, I couldn't figure out whether I wanted to do some different shades of pink or rainbow crack nails. But then I had to actually do some research. I'm like, we're in September. Is that winter? I had a bit of a moment there. I actually had to go on Google and look up is September. And we're still in fall. But anyways, I just went in and applied the base application gel on each nail and let that set under the UV light for a couple minutes. So I finally established some fall colors that I thought would look very nice. And some parts I didn't get to record because I ran out of storage space and had to pause, skip back to my gallery, delete a lot of unnecessary stuff. But the process was pretty simple and satisfying to make the French tip. But I tell you, the hardest part was when it started getting hotter outside in the 80s. And when it came to actually mixing the colors, so each shade would go up, well, go darker and blend more. When I would mix it, it would mix well, but then it started clumping. Now you don't see it start clumping here because the index finger was still pretty much a smooth application. When it got further along to the ring finger, the middle finger, mainly the pinky finger, and the ring finger, that's when it started to get a mess. And I did not like the design anymore. Now, when I finished the index finger and the thumb, I'm looking at both and I'm like, okay, we're making some progress. They both look good so far. Yes. Let's just hope I can keep this up when it comes to the rest of the fingers. Now, with the middle finger, I definitely started to see a lot more clumping, but not too much. It just slowly started getting bad. Like each finger I progressed to, it started getting more clumpy and more messier. I was hoping the curing would at least try and set it before it actually got dry and got messier. But that's the thing about working with gel polish in hot weather, and I was outside again. So this stuff was drying so fast, and it was just harder and harder to apply it. I did not like those clumps that it was actually making. It looked like slime, and I didn't want that to ruin the base of the nail. So any clumps that I saw, I tried to at least pull them off, re-wipe them. I mean, it got so bad to where I resorted to trying to use alcohol and the acetone nail polish remover to try and get it off, but that was stuck. It was stuck. I just had to leave it alone and decided to just go over it with a little bit more gel polish to try and smooth it over myself because I did not want to ruin it more. I got to the pinky nail. Surprisingly, it got much easier because all I had to do was go on with that orange solid color. I did not have to worry about mixing two different colors and watch them clump and set terribly. I just went in with a good orange color, that final dark orange color, let that set, and I was done with the base and could move on to the Croc design. So this is the clear acrylic powder that I use. It doesn't really matter what acrylic powder, as long as it's clear. It doesn't matter what brand. There's another video on my channel, um, pretty fast on how I did the Croc print design, and I didn't get most of it um on this video, but for the most part, I pretty much did. It's so simple. I'm just using a bead tool. I'm dragging the same color base coat that I put on the French tip, putting on the bead and dragging it across, making like a Croc design, and it's pretty simple. It was just kind of hard to go back through and remix all those clumpy colors and reapply it. That's why the Croc lines didn't look as perfect as the index finger in the thumbnail. And I'm not gonna lie, as much as I didn't want to, I was kind of rushing the croc print design. I was kind of rushing this process because it was drying so fast. And if you saw some of those short pieces, they were already turning clumpy and slimy, and I didn't like that. So I was trying my fastest, not despite me speeding up this part of the video, but I was actually trying to go as fast as I could to apply it and hurry up and go over with the clear acrylic. Sadly, I was out of frame and didn't get the footage of the ring finger and pinky finger doing the crop print design, but you saw it for the first few fingernails. Like I said, I ran out of storage space and my phone died. It was a lot. It was a lot. But for the most part, I did get the final part after I finished, and I was just dusting off the extra layers of the clear powder. And here you'll see me just going with some shiny top coat for the base color of the acrylic nail. And then I messed up majorly. The croc was fine on all the nails, but I decided to add the matte color. Now, when I added the matte top coat on the croc design of the nails, it still looked dry. It didn't look shiny enough. But little did I know, of course, that matte is not supposed to be shiny. So I went over the matte and actually applied the shiny top coat over the matte and messed up the card design. It looked smudged. It literally ruined it. If you've made it this far in the video, I really, really appreciate you watching because this video was so long to make and edit. But if you're interested in joining me further on my nail journey, and if you're willing to get better as well, we can get better together. It doesn't matter. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.